Yes, and we're live. Good evening, everyone, to my viewers. Welcome to Transformational Talks with your host, Netanga. Today, our guest is Mrs. Virginia Sibanda. Welcome, ma'am. It's good to have you on my talk show today. I'm very excited.
Thank you very much, Neddy, and I'm very happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much. I think I highlighted earlier yesterday. I was very happy when you decided to, like, you know what, I'll go for this one, and I was very, very excited because I noticed that a lot of us we've got a lot to learn from you. I was actually going through your book, and it actually say that you've got 28 years of experience in banking and microfinance. You know, it's something because I myself am 24, so I'm not yet even close to 28 years of your experience. So I look forward to learning so much from you today. So just to start, maybe you can just give us a brief bio about yourself. Who is Virginia Fund? Yes, we know you're a CEO, but maybe you can just give a little bit of yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Virginia Sibanda, and I'm a mother of four. That's one of my major jobs, being a mother of four. And I co-founded Virl Financial Services after realizing that, yes, I'd worked in commercial banking for the 28 years that you've mentioned, but I just realized that there was something that was missing. That was not speaking to youth, that was not speaking to women, that was not speaking to smallholder farmers. So in 2010, I decided to leave my corporate job, and with a princely sum of 5,000 US dollars, I ventured on to start Virl Financial Services, which is a microfinance that offers loans to small businesses, but we target women, youth, and smallholder farmers. And we also offer training to empower financial education to individuals and to groups. So I'm very passionate about empowering other people, and this is the reason I started Virl Financial Services.
You mentioned that you had to leave your job. That was in 2010. You know, I feel like for most of us, like young women, it's really hard to leave a job, considering this situation here in Zimbabwe. So, what really drove you to saying, now signing my papers, I'm leaving this job. I want to venture into my own business. I feel like it's really a challenge for us. How then did you manage to conquer this fear?
Yeah, you're right. It's a challenge, and it took me some years. By the time I left in 2010, I was already 45 years old. So I'm not like I'm an old bloomer. When I started to say I wanted to do this business, I had clarity in terms of what it is that I wanted to do. I had learned a lot from the commercial banks that I was working under in terms of how do I come up with processes and procedure. And I had a very clear vision of what it is that I wanted to do. So this is not something that I would encourage everyone who's just started a job to say, leave your job, you can be an entrepreneur. There are some people who are born entrepreneurs, but most of us will learn to be entrepreneurs by the associations that we make in the workplace, by the influences that we have around us. And for me, some people might actually say 45 years was a bit old to actually venture into a business. But for me, that was the right time. So every one of us, we have got that moment, Damascus moment, for lack of a better word, where you realize that I want to do something else with my life. But you can only do that from a position of clarity. You are very clear about what it is that you want to do. And this, for me, this is why it worked for me to start to do Virl Financial Services in an area that was very, very difficult. Most microfinance providers in Zimbabwe are bigger than Virl, but they focus on salary-based loans, where somebody is earning a salary and you just give them a loan and you deduct the money at the end of the month, and you are good to go. With us, we want to go into the community. We want to understand what is going on in the communities. What are the pain points of communities? We design products that align to that. So that takes time. So a lot will depend as an individual. What is it that you want to do? What is speaking to you? What problem do you want to solve? Is there a problem that you need to solve which is unique? So for me, those are the things that influence my decision making process.
Uh, we mentioned about clarity of the idea. So in the process of building microfinance, what are the challenges that you actually came across, and how did you manage to?
Yeah, so my major challenge was access to finance. Like I had this big audacious idea that there is need in rural communities to provide financial services, but I myself needed to have access to financial products to be able to then design my own products to the people in the rural communities. So that was one my major challenge. But that challenge for me was actually a solution. And I'll explain a bit further why I'm saying that. When I realized that no commercial bank will give me a loan, it made me to start think of other ways. Can I collaborate with other people? So the whole issue of not having a resource does not necessarily stop you from doing whatever it is that you want to do. Because I wanted to just sort of layer this question because most of the time we always talk about there being a challenge. Challenges are always there and they are part of our lives. So what we need to do is to say when you are faced with a certain challenge in your life, what else can you do? What solution can you come up with so that you can overcome that particular challenge? For me, overcoming that particular challenge was working with non-governmental organization, just understanding that they are there to empower rural communities. What role can Virl play to be able to make them do and achieve what they want to do? How can we collaborate? And that is how I solved my problem. I continue to have financial challenges right now because I want to reach out to more people, but I always tell myself that I need to be aware that I will always look for solution every single day. When I wake up in the morning, I'm always thinking to myself, this is a new day. What is it that I can do? One simple thing that I can do today to make my challenges less. So that's what I do.
Thank you so much. Maybe just to shout out to our viewers, Rosemary, for tuning in. Share, thank you for tuning. So yeah, you were talking about um, I just like what you mentioned that we always need to look for solutions, because it's one thing having a problem, and it's the other thing looking for challenge, looking for a solution. So that was my take home point on that. Thank you so much. So still on via microfinance, as I was actually going through your profile, it mentioned you are a master's in business administration. So I feel like for a lot of us, especially graduates, there's always that question: do I really need to do a master's or not? So was it an issue that you did a master's, or you wanted to do a master's in business administration? Was there need to it?
Yeah, so let me tell you a big story about this masters. It's funny that you bring it up. So unlike most of you who then did your O levels, your A levels, and then you ended up, you are now considering it's necessary to do a master's. My story was very different. At some point, I had to make a choice to say, do I go to A level or do I find a job that can give me a salary soonest? And I had to make that very difficult choice to say, okay, let me do a career path that will give me a salary in this as soon as possible, because my background was not exactly as easy. It wasn't very difficult. I don't want to say that. But you come to a moment where sometimes things just don't happen the way you want them to happen. And then again, like I said to you, when you're faced with a challenge, you always have to find another solution. So my solution was, let me do a secretarial course, right? Imagine that. I said, let me do a secretarial course. And my thinking was, It's easy. Teaching, it will take me 3 years to start earning a salary. Nursing will take me 3 years to start earning a salary. But secretarial, yeah, I think within a year I'll start earning a salary. Then I did my secretarial and I got a job as a typist, not as a secretary. And then I started going to night school to do my A level. Started doing some courses, diplomas, and then eventually I ended up doing my master's. So my master's was a way of telling myself that I was capable of doing this. I strongly believe. And my master's, my project was what I'm doing right now. So sometimes when you go to school, don't just say to yourself, I'm going to do a master's, when in actual fact you might not be able to use that. So my thesis was how I was working for Barclays Bank then. And then my thesis was how can Barclays Bank work with small businesses in a profitable manner through capacity building and providing loans on time. So what I do at Virl, it was like I'm one lucky person who used my thesis. I use my thesis on a daily basis to develop Virl, the business that I have today. So yes, it's important to go through the having your master's degree, but if you've got standard O level, A level, and you've got a dream, you can achieve. And the masters will then make you just realign and refocus, because just having a masters without the understanding of what it is that you want to do, if it means running a business or working, you cannot just have a masters and without really understanding what is your passion, what is it that you want to do eventually. A lot of people will tell you that passion will not take you anywhere. There are two positions on that. But I believe personally that the reason why Virl is still here 11 years, despite the challenges in regulatory changes, despite the changes that has happened over the years, is I absolutely love what I do. Right? Yes, if I happen to make money while I'm doing it, I don't make lots of it, because remember we're talking about rural communities. But what drives me is I absolutely just love what I do. I love seeing other people improving their livelihoods from the small loan that we give them. I love interacting with other people to see how, as well, we can assist them. So for me, that's my biggest MBA.
Thank you so much. You actually went back to a point that you mentioned earlier, that clarity is very important, that you need to clarify exactly what you want to do. So you mentioned that the micro loans that you offer is to women, youth, and people in the agricultural sector. Most of the viewers here are youth. So in an event that one wants to get a loan micro from the microfinance, what is the process that they're supposed to go through?
Right. So for us, for you to get a loan, you have to be doing a business at least for 6 months. We cannot offer loans for greenfields or ideas, because it's very, very difficult. The nature of our business is we also borrow the money that we lend to clients. So there's always that pressure to make sure that you start repaying your loan on a monthly basis. If you're in farming, it's on the case cycle of the crop that you are farming. So for us, you need to have proof of concept. It's very difficult for someone to finance an idea. But if from your own resources, which I know again is a very topical conversation, that someone will say, but where would I get this money? But a lender always wants to understand, what have you done on yourself? I'll give you a simple example. Someone who wants to do poultry, if they say to you, I've been keeping 10 chickens and I've managed to sell them, I know how to look after them. It's easier to give that person money because they want to scale the business. But if it's a situation where somebody says, I just have an idea that I think keeping chickens is a good idea, can we give me funding? It's a very difficult proposition to fund. So that is a subject on its own that we can discuss and pursue. But when someone wants to get funding from anyone, you have to have at least proof of the concept, so that someone can understand that I've done this, I've got the technical skills to do this, and maybe I might need more business skills, but the technical skills, I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I have a team around me that also understand exactly what I'm doing. That and your character itself is something that can sell your project to any financier, not just Virl Financial Services.
Thank you so much. So to our viewers, you've heard that proof of concept is very important. I feel like you need for a life on this because a lot of times you have platforms where students teach the ideas and the fun, but all tend to miss it. So I think I'm going to talk about this and maybe put it if that is okay with you.
Yeah, sorry, you were cutting a bit, so I couldn't quite follow the question. So, do you mind repeating the question?
Okay, I was saying that thank you for highlighting the part that the proof of concept is very important. And also, I feel like there is for us to talk more about to get or to get finance from investors because a lot of us, I feel like that's where we miss it. So maybe if that is okay with you, we can always arrange another time when where you get to empower and impact knowledge on these small business how they can get to be funded by investors or any microfinance organization.
Yeah, certainly. We could do that.
Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
earlier you mentioned that your background was a bit different. You didn't go to uni and stuff like the normal procedure. So I'm just curious to find out at a very early age, did you know that you really wanted to venture into the sector, or is it actually came to you?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question. To be quite honest, I really, at an early age, no, I was just trying to survive. I just wanted to pass grade 7. I wanted to pass O level. Uh, that was driving me. I had no clarity. And to me, it seems that over the time, immediately when I then did the secretarial course and then I went for a company that was actually offering loans to small businesses, I then grew the interest to say, this is interesting, this is empowering other people. And sort of I got drawn to that area, and then everything started because building along those lines. By the time I went to work for Barclays Bank and I was doing my MBA, that idea had already been built in my head because I used to travel across Zimbabwe, looking at these entrepreneurs that were trying to find funding. They had ideas, but maybe because they were in rural areas, maybe because they were women, they were not having access to finance. So for me, I got drawn to that whole idea to say, I can see this problem. I think I can solve this problem. And this is what started with my MBA. So, and unfortunately, I wish I could say to you, I was very clear. I meet a lot of people and I struggle with my kids right now because I'm that mother. They say, but don't you know what you want to be? By now you should be knowing what you want to do. But for me, I think we found each other somewhere along the line because of the circumstances that I found myself, the first job that I was in, and we found this good, great story that I ended up doing what I absolutely love doing.
That's quite an interesting one. I feel like I can in some way because I went for when I started my engineering. It's not that I repeated an institution, let me corporate. But along the way, I can say I found myself the way. Then I started doing the women empowerment things, and I realized that I feel like I can do this 24 without being paid. So it's something that I'm also like really passionate about. Because I'm really relate.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
moving on, since you're a who is that faced, is how you manage to overcome them. Besides the one that you have mentioned in the issue of getting finance, but other aspects that you feel the small businesses or entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe. actually facing if you are not responsible?
Yeah, so Zimbabwe is just a very difficult operating environment, right? So some of the issues that you face that you might have a strategy internally, but there are external forces that come into play, like changes in legislation that can be problematic to the business that you are running. So I have come across that, and one good example that I can give you is like I'm in finance, right? And our major asset is money. So all of you, you know what happened if you're a Zimbabwean, what happened in 2018. I don't want to be political about this. It's just an example where at one point you had US dollar and you gave somebody a loan in US dollar, and then people just said, okay, I'll hold on to this money, and then 6 months later or a year later, they're paying you a fraction of what they owed you in US dollar, and all of a sudden you don't have US dollar. So it's like in 2018, I restarted the business pretty much because all the value that we had built in the business, it was eroded. So at that particular point in time, I had 11 branches, I had 54 staff members, and I did not have money. So you can imagine trying to say, okay, how do I pivot from this business that had scaled up to that level? We had reaching out to about 6,000 clients at that particular point in time. And then all of a sudden you find yourself that, okay, all this basic fundamental business that you had built, everything is gone. What do you do? Yeah, so that was one of the most difficult points in my time. But gradually, with the team, I've got a fantastic team of young graduates like you. I think my average staff age is around 28. So as a team, we regrouped and everybody was willing to take a pay cut. Everybody did what they needed to do so that we could actually survive as a business. Unfortunately, we had to let some people go because it was painful for us to do that. But at least for the business to survive, we had to retrench 50% of the staff members. We had to cut down 4 branches, I mean 5 branches actually, because now we've got 6 branches. So that was very tough. I must admit, it was very tough. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and say to myself, what am I going to do? And how am I going to come out of this situation? But through God's grace, combination of having a fantastic team around me, combination of having good support structures around me. I've got a husband who is very supportive, although sometimes he gets impatient. But yeah, and I've got also my one of my daughters. She works closely with me, and she's been fantastic in actually coming with better ideas of how we can make the business move. So I also have a partner. She's not 100% involved in the business day to day. So I get a good support from her from a board level. So yeah, we've managed to survive because of the good close relationships that we've had, and just our ability to say that we don't give up. You know, if something has not worked, let's go back to the drawing board. What do we need to do? How do we do it? And we have survived. We are now rebuilding the business. We're still standing. Yeah. So, but that was hard. I must admit, it was really hard because at some point the business was really significant, and all of a sudden you're looking at yourself and say, okay, all this value is gone. What do I do? Do I close shop or do I continue? But I always told myself the people out there who we sought to save, they're still there. Therefore, there's no reason for us to close shop.
Thank you so much. So it's all about not giving up and having the right support structure. So I want to ask, what does it mean to you to be a leader? Since you mentioned about having the right support structure, you mentioned about the teamwork, you mentioned about the partners that you have. So you yourself, what does it mean being a leader?
Yeah, sorry, I was missing you again. The last you were saying, what does it mean to me? That little bit, I lost it again. You're fading.
Oh, apologies for that. What does it mean?
No, you can say that again, sorry.
What does it mean to be a leader to you?
Oh, I see. Sorry about that, my dear. So being a leader for me is I call myself a facilitator, really, because being a leader is you surround yourself with wonderful, fantastic people who help you, who understand your vision, because you've got to articulate it, and they need to understand exactly where you're coming from. So my role, my major role, really, is to listen to each individual, understand what value they bring to Virl, coordinate them so that this big vision that I see in my head comes through. So my role as a leader, actually, I'm a nurturer. I develop talent within the business. It's not too much about this is my business. No, everybody who works for Virl is an entrepreneur in my mind. And my role is to develop them to be better than what they are. Not for Virl as such all the time, but I like seeing people also move away from Virl. Like we've seen a lot of people that came from college from Virl, they've married when they were in Virl, but they found better opportunities outside Virl. And I love that part of it because it regenerates the business. It also means that we are giving value to people that come to Virl. So running a business is not just about what you want. It's about what value are you also providing the people that are working with you.
I like that point that you are saying it's about the value that you very strong. A lot of think all about business, like the young entrepreneurs. Hey, Miss Van,
Sorry, I can hear you now, but you are breaking. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know whether it is my connection, but now can you go ahead?
okay. So I was just saying I loved the point where you mentioned that it's also about the value that you give to your employees. Because I feel like most of the jobs that are out there, they what they do is they take from people, but at the end of the day they don't also give back. And I also liked the point where you mentioned that it is your role to listen. I feel like most of us we are good talkers, but we barely listen to the people around us, and we are also not in a position to listen and understand the value that they are bringing into our organization. Thank you so much for highlighting that point.
No, that's fine because you know what? I've realized that I do learn a lot from the people that pass through Veil. And it's a two-way. Like I'm here and there's a business opportunity, you've got a job here, but we listen to each other very much, and I communicate at all levels, right? And because this is the only way I can understand the rest of the team. Maybe it's because we're a small team, so it gives me that ability to understand people. I want to know who you are. You are not just a number. And sometimes people will say this is being inquisitive, but it's not. If I know that you are coming from an area where sometimes you've not had electricity for the past 5 days or 10 days, and you've come to the office and maybe your shirt is not exactly what it's supposed to be, I can understand that. So instead of me saying, but why are you dressed like that? There is a certain notion, I'll understand what is going on and I'll understand how can I help you to be better rather than to just approach to say, don't you know you're supposed to be coming to the office? So for me, all those little nuances, they come together so that we build a team together that is proud to be working for Vel. So understanding people and understanding where they're coming from, understanding their background, it helps me to lead them and guide them.
Thank you so much for adding clarity to that point. Then my next question, as I was going through your profile, it mentioned that you're the board, you're a board member at Zimbabwe Association of Microfinance Institution. So how does it feel like to be a board member, for an institution? Is it a good feeling? Is it the same as being a CEO, or it's the feeling it's even?
That's a very interesting question. Some of these things I really don't think much about it. It's all about my dog. I'm at my house. So, being the board chair of Zamfi, it comes with a lot of responsibility because you are sort of the constituency is made up of over 200 microfinance institutions that some of them are very small and some are actually bigger, much bigger than Virl Financial Services. So for me to be the chair of Zamfi, it comes with a lot of responsibility. I've got to listen to a lot of what the constituencies' pain points are. And one of our major highlights is microfinance institutions with the help of Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe and the Ministry of Finance was to push the agenda of having licenses that were perennial rather than the renewal of license every other year. So it's about also understanding what the previous board chair, what their focus was, and how do you also come in, what changes do you bring in there, but they cannot just be your change. You've got to work with the rest of the constituency to achieve something. Financial inclusion, I hope you understand, is one of the pillars, microfinance rather, is one of the pillars of the financial inclusion plan, the National Financial Inclusion Policy for Zimbabwe, which was running from 2016 to 2020. So it is a sector that is very, very critical in the economy. So it comes with a lot of responsibility, I must admit. And I just follow through my instincts because if you love financial inclusion, you can deal with being a chairperson, board chairperson of Zamfi, because we know the job that we need to do to make sure that most of the Zimbabweans have access to finance. So that resonates very much with what I like doing. So being the board chair of Zamfi is okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. So I just want to know, how then do you balance being the CEO of Virl, being the board chair of something, and also being a family person? How do you tackle these things?
Yeah. So for me, it's a 360 degree. So these things for me, they flow into each other. So if I am doing well at work, I am doing well at home, and I can be a good board chair of something. If one of those links is not doing very well, it affects every single. I am not one person who says I am done with work, I'm at work, and then I am done. This is family, and this is being Zamfi board chair. For me, it's one straight line, right? So I have to manage this focus so that at the end of the day, it's a smooth flow. So when I'm at work, I do not have different how I run when I'm at work, when I do things when I'm at work. It's pretty much the same way I do when I'm in my house. It's pretty much the same way I do when I'm in Zamfi because it's all about listening and understanding people. So when I'm in my house as a mother, I'm very clear. The clarity that I have when I'm running Veil is the same clarity that I push to my house, is the same clarity that I push to Zamfi, and but that ability to just listen. So in my house, children are not told that do this because I'm the mother. I need to understand if I tell you and you've got a question, ask me and I'll tell you. But I'm your mother is not an answer. So we need to understand each other. Where are you coming from? Where am I coming from? How do we work together? So it's the same approach that I take. So for me, the balancing act really comes from the spiritual position. Where am I emotionally? Where am I physically? Where am I financially? Where am I? All these things they feed into each other. They are not independent of each other. They make me the whole person that I am. So I seek to make sure that every part of my life is balanced. Doesn't mean that I do not get stressed. I do get stressed, but I understand that stress is a sign that I'm not managing something well. So I pause to think, what is it that I could be doing better? For example, if it is work, if I find something is stressing me, I simply then pause to say, okay, what is it that I could be doing better so that I can take away the stress? I don't I don't necessarily say I don't want to be stressed because stress is actually part of life. It's about how do you manage the stress. So for me, yeah, I hope that was making that clarified your point.
Yes, it did. Or maybe just to, to engage the audience, there is a comment from Tari Romango. She's actually the one who gave me your contact. She said, yes, I'm here, Sid. I learned a lot from her. So that one is from Tari. So maybe to our viewers, it's about to round up. Feel free to ask your questions. We'll address as we go. So my next question to
So
the
can I
young
just
women.
sorry? Can I just say something about Tarim?
Yes, you may.
She's a wonderful young lady. And it was my honor to be associated with her. And I love the person that she's becoming and coming from a position where things could have been difficult, but she never gave up. I love her spirit. So, Tarero, keep on going, young lady. You'll achieve a lot in life.
Thank you so much, Chariro. I hope you did that. So moving forward. Oh, there's also a comment from Gamchirai. Thank you for explaining the balancing part. Also a question on that. Thank you so much, Gam. I hope you answered. So feel free to ask any questions that you have. So it's about to round up. My question is, what words of encouragement you give young women like us, young people, first the environment in Zimbabwe? What are the words of encouragement you have to us?
Thank you very much. Before I do that, I just want to say anyone who is on this platform who wants to get in touch with me, please feel free and I'll give you my number so that I can continue to encourage you. My number is 0772 437 560. So I just want to encourage you that if you really want to do something, it doesn't necessarily have to do with starting a business. But if you're in that position where you just think you want to speak to someone who can listen to you, yeah, get in touch with me. I'll try my level best to be there for you. So now answering your question, I struggle with that because I don't think that I'm wise. But what I just want to say, ladies, is do not buy so much into this whole idea that success comes easy or success is a direct result of working very, very hard. No, sometimes success is a combination of a whole lot of things. God's grace, opportunities reaching you on time. Because sometimes, how do we explain that someone you're in the same class with, but when you finish college, they get the great job, but you don't get the great job? So what I'm trying to encourage you ladies is to look within yourself that as an individual, you are unique. Your opportunities will come at a time that is different from anyone else around you. So do not judge your life in line with what someone else has done. Look at yourself always, and if some of you are spiritual, I think that is very, very important. Praying is part and parcel of what we want to do. Not that one where you say, I'm praying to get a job. No, you pray, but you actually send out those CVs, right? You pray, you actually volunteer, right? You don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, I've prayed, therefore my job will come. So it's a lot of things that we have to do. You have to show up. You have to show up. And this issue of just making sure that when you say I'm meeting someone, don't talk about Zimbabwean time. When you say to someone, I'm meeting you at 2, you better be there at 2. Because that actually shows that you are very committed to what you are doing. So, ladies, opportunities they come to people at different time frames. For some people, it's because they are born within families that are rich. And for some people, you have to struggle to reach a certain level, but keep at it, because at the end of the day, it will come right. Because I've always said, people say working hard, working hard. If working hard on its own was what made people successful, what about all these women in rural areas? You see, they work harder than us. They work, but they are still in positions that we will say we wish they could be doing much better. So there's a lot of other things that come into play in terms of success. And yes, ladies, listen to motivational speakers, but please understand their stories are not your stories all the time, right? You got to understand yourself, who you are, because every person who is listening to this, you've got your own story, your own unique story to tell. How do you tell it? Yeah, so those are some of the things that I just want you to, because we cannot be clones of each other. You need to find your uniqueness and you run with your uniqueness and make a difference in the best way that you can.
Thank you so much. I thought, you know, you needed to go on and on and on because what you're saying, it's gold. Trust me, it's that I actually really liked. Thank you so much for the words of encouragement. Would definitely put it into practice. You know, I liked one phrase that when you pray, doesn't mean you stop sending out your CVs. You know, that was important point. And also, I like the part that where you speak about management. I feel like I'm also guilty of, you know, I say I'll be there too, but most people arrive late have too. So like time management is very key. Then you mentioned about, you know, something you need to volunteer. So what's your take on volunteering?
So the volunteering, what it does for you as an individual is it helps you to meet and network with people that you would otherwise not meet. Because sometimes companies might not be able to pay you for doing some work for them, not because they are mean, just because they don't have resources. But what you gain by volunteering, working for them, even as an intern without being paid, is you get to understand how a business works. You get to understand how things are done, so that when you go for your next interview, you can actually sort of assimilate the questions that you are being asked. You can understand that, okay, I've seen this happening somewhere, therefore your answers are much better than someone who's not been involved with that. That is at work level. Volunteering, where maybe you're working with a home, maybe an orphanage, just helping someone. For me, I find that whole notion of helping something is good for you, for your soul. It's good for your soul to help someone else, and because this world is built on people helping each other. So if you are one of those persons who can do that, you can help. It's actually also good for your CV, in the sense that people can see that despite things being difficult for you, if I am looking at a CV for somebody who's done some volunteer work and someone who's got, but they're close, I will probably go with someone who's done some volunteer work. It's good for you as an individual, but it also helps build your CV, in terms that you are somebody who is willing to work with other people. Because all of us, we need a helping hand, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sibanda. Uh, come to the end of this session. I feel like, you know, need for us to go on. So I'll make arrangements where we'll talk about, you know, how to get finances from people, how to get funding. Thank you so much for your time. As I round up, I just leave this platform for our viewers. If they've got any questions, they should feel free to ask. Thank you so much for, you know, talking about your, your career journey. You know, it's something that we can learn from. I know I'm not in the finance sector. Um, I'm in the engineering sector, but it's a lot of notes from what you're saying, and thank you for picking up. You know, I feel like there's always that pressure to lose the clarity at why we need the master's program. Thank you for highlighting that. And thank you also for highlighting the importance of having a good support team and also for the team and also very along the way. Thank you so much for highlighting that. And also thank you so much for talking about what it means to be a good leader. You mentioned that good leader means that you have to listen, you have to coordinate, and you have to understand each people in your team is an individual. And you also spoke about how you got to balance your life. CEO is a member and as a family member. You spoke about how one factor affects the other factor. And you also spoke about that stress is life. When you're means that there is something and there's this need for you to go to the drawing board. And also the highlight of the day was the part of creating. Before you decide to be a founder or a co-founder, there's also that need for you to clarify what is there need for you to do this step. So I feel like I can go on and on because I was actually writing notes. So for that, so the comments from the comment section, and thank you so much for your time. We're looking forward for part two. Thank you so much. There's going to be a part two, but this time we'll look into topic that we can and talk more about. Thank you so much for this fun.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Nedi, for choosing me to be on this platform. And those that joined us, thank you very much for making time. And yeah, looking forward to the next session.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Maybe before we go, I'm very passionate about things that have to do with mentorship. So, what is your take on mentorship? Can you say that part of your 28 years of experience, mentorship played a very key role in your life?
100%. So mentorship, what it does is it's like you've got somebody who can help you also think through, right? And who can hold you accountable, right? So when I'm doing mentorship myself, it's like we are agreeing on terms and conditions of how we are going to be talking to each other. My expectation is your mentor will be to say the things that we have agreed to, are we doing them or are we not? And then what mentorship does, it helps you to achieve because you've got an accountability body, right? So it helps you to achieve what it's very different from someone who just say, oh, I meet my friends and we talk about this, we chill and we laugh, and as I say, I want to do something, and this other girl say, oh, that's a good idea. With a proper mentorship will say, when we meet next time, I want you to have done that. We register and say, we've done that. So mentorship, I find it's a very, very good way of keeping yourself accountable to achieve what you want to achieve. When I started Virl, I did not have a mentor as such, but my mentorship was having been part of a commercial bank for a long time and being a managing director of Microfinance, which was one of the biggest microfinance institutions then. So I cannot really say I didn't have a mentor. It wasn't a person. My mentor was not a person because sometimes we are so much focused to say a mentor is an individual that I'm talking to. That is my take. I might be wrong. But I found that my mentorship was being in an organization that had been 100 years old. They had processes, they had procedures. So I was emulating, when I was starting Virl, I was now emulating all the things that was in place. So I would like to think that was mentorship on its own. But I suppose the mentorship that we're talking about right now is to have somebody who holds you accountable, who shows you the ropes. It is somebody who's probably knowledgeable in the industry that you want to be in some cases. In some cases, it can be just a random person who is very good at keeping you accountable to what you want to do. Like as an engineer, I wouldn't know what you guys who are clever as engineers would do. But I'll simply say, oh, you told me you want to build a bridge. I want to see that bridge here. On a certain day, that bridge must be there. That's what a mentor does, right?
Yes.
So yeah, you can take your pick of mentors, but having a mentor is very, very critical.
Thank you so much. So maybe from our viewers, there might be someone who might be interested in being mentored by you. So are you open to that?
I'm very open to that.
Thank
I'm
you so
very
much.
open to that. And I'm looking for very serious young ladies who are just not saying, "Oh, it's a good thing, it's fancy for me to do this." I'll be committed. Whoever wants to be mentored by me, I'll be committed. But we want to do something that can actually come out. We don't want to just talk. I'm tired of people who talk. Zimbabweans, we are very good at talking. We are very good at putting proposals together. We are very articulate. But if you look at other African countries, they're not as articulate, but they get things going, they get things done. This is what we want to do. Sorry, I said they might not be articulate. No, no, no. Let me take that back. What I meant to say is in Zimbabwe, we tend to want so much to say, have I read written, is my English perfect? All these other nuances, which when you really look at them, they really don't matter, right? I was listening to this other group of ladies who were talking about education. What role does it play in being a good entrepreneur? And someone's idea was to say, you know what, yes, you want to count 1 + 1 = 2 to be able to make sure that you are making a profit. But sometimes, you know what, we push ourselves so much that we go to this MBAs, you have to do this. But if you do not know how to actually run a business, it could be very, very problematic. So I think I want to be mentoring people who are very, very serious about what it is that they want to do, right? And then we can actually say after a year, what is it that we have achieved? After 2 years, what is it that we have achieved? Because mentorship takes a bit of effort, it takes a bit of time, and it's not a popcorn culture. When I talk about popcorn culture, you millennials, you think you want something done, you want something now, it has to happen now. No, life is not like that, actually. Life, you put in the time, you pay the school fees, and then you have the result. So that is what we've been working on.
Thank you so much. I think they've heard what you've said. So if there are people who want to be mentored with Mrs. Vanda, please feel free to reach out to her and please be mentors. Um, Thank you so much, Mrs. Vanda. We've come to the end of our discussion. And to my viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. I see Rosemary Kwaturi Tariro. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tendom Shavati, thank you so much for tuning in. He was my former prefect at secondary school. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you guys next week, Wednesday, same time. Thank you so much, Miss Wanda.
Yeah, and well done to you, Neddy. Keep on pushing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I look forward to having more conversations with you.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers, ma'am.